The curtains rise. The stage is set for a riveting revelation. A household tethering on the brink of collapse. Secrets simmering beneath a surface and tensions rising to a boiling point. With each character poised on the edge of a profound change, the stage becomes a battleground of emotions where truth and illusion collide in a crescendo of drama. Prepare to witness the tumultuous twists and turns of destiny of Nora, Torvald, and their cozy familial ties that turn so fragile in stage directions. It has always been a very important ingredient in Ibsen's play. You remember how the stage was set up in the first and the second acts, right? And now in the third act, let's look at how the stage looks like and why this is going to be very significant. The same scene. So Ibsen is trying to kind of hold on to this almost Aristotelian concept or idea about the unity of space and to some extent about the unity of time because this whole play is set up within a short span of just a few days. And in a way, we have seen that there is no subplot at all in this. So, yes, there is also a unity of action. So, what is he trying to write for us? Is it going to be a tragedy? Or is he defining tragedy, comedy, and all these genres in an altogether new perspective? So, the scene is the same, the stage is very similar to the previous acts, but there is a difference. The table has been placed in the middle of the stage. Earlier, the Christmas tree was at the center. Okay. And we find chairs around it. So, is he trying to set up a situation or a location where finally conversations will take place? Because a table around which chairs are set up is supposed to be for people who engage in conversations. And in this play, till now, we have seen that there is an absolute lack of communication, proper conversation, serious conversation, especially between Torvald and Nora. So, will there be a kind of exchange between them? We do get a kind of a premonition, a kind of foreshadowing of what is to come in the third act. A lamp is burning on the table. The door into the hall stands open, so the exit is open for us. Dance music is heard in the room above. We know that another family, they live above in the upper floor, and there's a party going on, the fancy dress party in which Nora was supposed to perform the tarantella. Mrs. Lindy, she is sitting. So this is kind of a very rare moment when we don't see Nora on stage. So you might ask that here she is not under the gaze of the audience. Very true. But is she alone at the moment? No. She is upstairs with her husband, and there are so many other people looking at her performing something. So even when Nora is out of our sight, she is not allowed any kind of privacy. We see Mrs. Lindy is there and she is just idly reading a book. She tries to read but does not seem able to collect her thoughts, so she is kind of disturbed. And soon we see Krogstad entering the stage. We know that she had already sent a note to Krogstad since she did not find Krogstad at home when she wanted to go and appeal to him to take back his letter. Now Krogstad has found that note and he is interested to know what this is all about. So Krogstad comes in. I found a note from you at home. What does this mean? It is absolutely necessary that I should have a talk with you. So Lindy, it appears, knows Krogstad very well, and that we already know somehow. Krogstad is very surprised that why does Lindy want to talk to him here? Because this is kind of enemy territory for him. And he asks her, is it absolutely necessary that it should be here? It is impossible where I live. We know that Christine does not have any proper house yet, and she lives in probably a mess or a hostel where she does not have the kind of privacy she needs if she has to speak to Crockstead. So she wants to speak to him here. So, what is their conversation about? Just come down a little and we'll find out. Crockstead is surprised and he asks, "Can we two have anything to talk about?" "We have a great deal to talk about." "I shouldn't have thought so." "No, you have never properly understood me." Now, with this kind of tone, we realize that their relationship in the past had been quite an intimate one. So, the audience's curiosity is also aroused as to how far were they connected and what went wrong. Was there anything else to understand except what was obvious to all the world? Like, I did not make a mistake, it was quite obvious because you did something that was understandable to me. And what did Christine do to him? A heartless woman jilts a man when a more lucrative chance turns up. That means Lindy and Crockstead had a relationship, and Lindy left Crockstead when a better opportunity turned up. That is, a richer man came up in the scene. Do you believe I am as absolutely heartless as all that? And do you believe that I did it with a light heart? Now Lindy is trying to justify her actions, her past actions, why she left Crockstead. And what is her explanation? "You must not forget that I had a helpless mother and two little brothers. We couldn't wait for you, Nils. Your prospects seemed hopeless then." Nils is Crockstead's first name. And when somebody addresses someone with the first name, we know that the connection was fairly intimate. She says that she had to take the responsibility of looking after her mother and her brothers. We already know this backstory, right? "That may be so, but you had no right to throw me over for anyone else's sake." "Indeed, I don't know. Many a time did I ask myself if I had the right to do it." So there is a note of regret in her. She asked herself repeatedly if she was right when she did what she did. And we see how Crockstead was affected. "When I lost you, it was as if all the solid ground went from under my feet. Look at me now. I am a shipwrecked man clinging to a bit of wreckage." So he compares himself to a shipwrecked man, and this metaphor or this image is carried on in Christine's words when she, just a few lines later, she says, "Well, I am like a shipwrecked woman clinging to some wreckage. No one to mourn for, no one to care for." So the idea that Ibsen is a home wrecker does not hold when we look at the way Christine is presented. See, Christine is presented as an independent woman. She is not controlled by any man. Her situation is diametrically opposite to Nora's situation. But is she happy? No. So it is not that Ibsen is trying to tell us that a woman outside a family or a woman who is free from familial ties is a happy woman. He is just trying to say that there has to be a middle ground. There has to be a balance where you have your independence and at the same time you have someone or a family with whom you can share your happiness. So, human companionship is extremely important when it comes to happiness. This is Ibsen's point of view. So, don't think that he wants every woman to simply walk out of their families or walk out of their homes. And then she says, after a few lines, "Nils, how would it be if we two shipwrecked people could join forces?" "What are you saying?" "Two on the same piece of wreckage would stand a better chance than each on their own." She clearly wants to be with Krogstad. And this is also kind of unusual because here we see a woman actually extending a proposal. So we don't see Lindy shying away or feeling inhibited, thinking about the role of women, that women should not be the ones who make decisions, who propose to men. But here we see her actually asserting what she wants, actually taking a solid stand for herself, and she wants to be with Croxted. Croxted is clearly taken aback. He says, Christine, hi, what do you suppose brought me to town? So now we understand why Christine has come here at all. She came here looking for Croxted. Do you mean that you gave me a thought? I could not endure life without work. Now we see how Ibsen is trying to present us Christine's perspective, a working woman's perspective, a working woman who has no other ties, no other obligations. And is she happy in this way? All my life, as long as I can remember, I have worked, and it has been my greatest and only pleasure. But now I'm quite alone in the world. My life is so dreadfully empty, and I feel so forsaken, like everybody has left me. There is not the least pleasure in working for oneself, Nils. Give me someone and something to work for. This is what a complete woman looks like in Ibsen's eyes. A woman who is not independent of all responsibilities, but a woman who is capable of responsibilities. And then Croxted wants to tell her that, do you know about my past life? Do you know what I've been through? And do you know what people think about me? And then she says, you seem to me to imply that with me, you might have been quite another man. So she feels that Croxted's downfall in the eyes of society, in the eyes of himself, is because she had deserted him. Now, if she is with him, he can turn a new leaf. Is it too late now? Christine, are you saying this deliberately? Yes, I'm sure you are. I see it in your face. Croxted is not able to believe his good luck, and therefore, like, he's a man who has suffered through his life. He has been deserted by her, and now it is too good to be true for him. Have you really the courage? Then I want to be a mother to someone, and your children need a mother. We two need each other, Nils. I have faith in your real character. I can dare anything together with you. Thanks, thanks, Christine. Now I shall find a way to clear myself in the eyes of the world. Ah, but I forgot. So, right when Croxted is feeling so emotionally complete and fulfilled, he suddenly remembers that he is about to ruin somebody else's life. And this happens, when you are so completely happy, you really don't want to spoil anybody else's happiness. So, what does he do now? Right then, they hear that the tarantella is going on upstairs. So, we can hear the dance music too. So, you see how Ibsen is utilizing not just the visual setup of the stage, but also the auditory sensations of the audience. They are aware of the music that is going on in the background, and that is a very important part of this play. So when the tarantella has begun, then Lindy understands that it's going to be over soon and they are going to come down. So Croxted must leave. Hush, the tarantella. Go, go. Why? What is it? Do you hear them up there? When that is over, we may expect them back. And then Croxted says that, yes, I know, but do you know what I've already done to them? I should be taking the letter back. And when he says this, we knew that Lindy had gone to Croxted earlier so that he would take the letter back. But now she is saying something different to him. And what does she say? No, Nils, you must not recall your letter. But tell me, wasn't it for that very purpose that you asked me to meet you here? In my first moment of fright, it was. Yes, she originally planned this, but now. But 24 hours have elapsed since then, and in that time, I have witnessed incredible things in this house. What has she witnessed? What has changed her mind? Helmer must know all about it. Why does she want Helmer to know everything? Is she jealous of Nora? Is she envious of her happiness? But then she is going to be as happy as Nora or probably more. Then what has happened to her? Why this sudden change of mind? She has noticed this family very closely in the last 24 hours. And what has she found out? This unhappy secret must be disclosed. They must have a complete understanding between them, which is impossible with all this concealment and falsehood going on. She realizes that no matter how solid a family looks, if the foundations are built on secrets and lies and deception, that structure cannot hold. That family will collapse. And she wants to see Nora pass through this acid test to make sure that this family does have the strength, and she wants this secret to come out. So she's actually being the voice of reason here and not the voice of envy. And then, after Croxted leaves with a heart full of hope and happiness, look at how Lindy is behaving. We were having this doubt in us, right? That whether Lindy is actually serious about Croxted, but now when she's alone, we see her expressing her happiness. We realize that no, this is not a deception. This family, this future family, which Lindy is going to have with Croxted, this is going to be built on the solid foundation of trust and loyalty. And she says, "What a difference! What a difference! Someone to work for and live for, a home to bring comfort to. That I will do indeed. I wish they would be quick and come. She wants to go away from here, this suffocating place of deception. She wants to join Croxted. She wants to have a new life." And then we see Helmer and Nora entering the stage. So they have come down from the party, and let's look at their description here. Helmer's and Nora's voices are heard outside. A key is turned. Helmer brings Nora almost by force into the hall. So Nora is not ready to come out of the party. Helmer drags her out. She is in an Italian costume with a large black shawl around her. He is in evening dress, that is a suit, and a black domino which is flying open. And the way Helmer is dressed, it's although it's kind of official, but since his black domino is flying open, we realize that he's a little bit tipsy, a little drunk as well. Nora doesn't want to come down or come away from that party, and she says, "No, no, no, don't take me in. I want to go upstairs again. I don't want to leave so early." Torvald thinks that she just want to party on. We know that she doesn't want to come down because she doesn't want to face reality. She knows that down there the letter is waiting in the letter box. Torvald is going to read that and her world is going to turn upside down. She wants to postpone that crisis. So there's a kind of escapism in Nora. She doesn't want to face the hard reality yet. "But my dearest Nora, please, Torvald, dear, please, please, only now more." We saw her counting the hours toward that crisis, and she wants to prolong it. "Not a single minute, my sweet Nora. You know that was our agreement." So he insists her coming away from the party right now. And then they see that Lindy was waiting there and they're kind of surprised that what are you doing here? And she says she wanted to see Nora in her dress because she mended it, right? You remember? And then Helmer says, "Yes, take a good look at her." So he takes off Nora's shawl and it's like kind of he is exposing her to the gaze, to the judgment of everybody who is looking at her. And it's not just Christine who is looking at her right now. We all are, right? "I think she is worth looking at. Isn't she charming, Mrs. Lindy?" "Yes, indeed she is." "Doesn't she look remarkably pretty? Everyone thought so at the dance. But she's terribly self-willed, this sweet little person. What are we to do with her? She is considered to be like an impulsive child, and so Torvald feels that he cannot control her all the time. And his tone is almost like an upbraiding parent who is kind of proud of the child's performance, but still shows that this child is too impulsive to control. "You'll hardly believe that I had almost to bring her away by force." And then he says something very important. And now we realize why Helmer actually dragged her out. Listen to her, Mrs. Lindy. She had danced her tarantella and it had been a tremendous success, as it deserved, although possibly the performance was a trifle too realistic. Now we know that Torvald doesn't like realistic things, so she was being very realistic. That means she was probably showing a lot more passion in her dance than Helmer would have wanted. But nonetheless, everybody appreciated Nora and a moment was created. You know what a moment is? When a performer is performing something and everybody is looking at the performer, and a moment of greatness is kind of dawning on the performer. So that moment was created for Nora in that party. But never mind about that. The chief thing is she had made a success. She had made a tremendous success. Do you think I was going to let her remain there after that and spoil the effect? So, right when she was at the focus of attention of all the people who were watching her dancing, after that moment, she would become just another person in the party. Would I allow that? Would I allow her to come down from that glorified position? No, I would not let her spoil the effect. Please remember this sentence because we are going to come back to this sentence after we finish reading this whole act. And then you will realize why this sentence is so significant. It's probably the most important sentence in the whole play from the perspective of Ibsen's dramatic style. Here it means Torvald's egotism. Here it means how he looks at his wife. She is like, well, a trophy which he wants to showcase. She is like somebody he wants to show to the world as his possession. And he will control how much of Nora would be visible and to whom and for what duration. And then he says, after a few lines, an exit ought always to be effective, Mrs. Lindy, but that is what I cannot make Nora understand. When you exit the stage, you should be the focus. You should have created the maximum interest. Only then people will remember your exit. This is told by Helmer in a very casual manner. He doesn't know how this is going to be really significant when finally the last moments of this play comes. Oh, this room is hot. So he just throws off his domino, his coat, and he opens the door of his room, and then he brings in and gets some lights or candles. While Torvald is away, Nora has a quick word with Mrs. Lindy, where Lindy informs her that it was not possible to get back the letter. Nora understands that this is going to be the end. There is no way that she would be spared. But before Lindy is about to leave, Helmer notices that she has left her knitting. Okay. And he says, "Oh, what, already? Is this yours, this knitting?" "Yes, thank you. I had very nearly forgotten it." And then he asks, "Do you knit? So you knit?" "Of course." "Do you know you ought to embroider?" Now, what is the difference between knitting and embroidering? Knitting means you're working with wool, okay, with those long needles, and you make things like a sweater, a muffler, those things, okay, woolen things. Embroidery means you work with small needles and you make these designs, these beautiful designs, sometimes flowers, sometimes birds, pretty little designs on handkerchiefs, on scarves, which are more for decorative purpose. So if we look at these two types of sewing, we would notice that knitting creates solid things which protect you from the cold, which have actual utility in life. Embroidery is more like artistic things, which are definitely beautiful things, and it requires a lot more skill to embroider. But somehow we say that embroidery is not essential for survival in a way. All right. Now, what is Torvald's preference? Torvald wants women to embroider. So he does not think about the importance of knitting. And why does he want women to embroider and not knit? because of a very strange reason. And we know how peculiar Torvald's character is. He actually justifies this and says, it's far more becoming, it's more stylish to embroider. Not the embroidery. He's not saying the embroidery or the design is very beautiful. He's saying while a woman is knitting, you know how the movement of the hands go. When you knit, your hands go like this. Okay, like you're knitting like this. And when you embroider, your hand goes like this. Okay, you're pulling the needle and the thread. So this is more feminine. This is more like mechanical. So Torvald, whose worldview, especially views about women, is based on these very peculiar ideas about how women should look, more than what is the importance of work. Okay, so he is all into these superficial things. There is not an ounce of realism in him. There is not an ounce of respect in him for real housework. We have already seen that. Nora knows that he doesn't like mending things. He doesn't like how do household chores in front of him. Okay, so he says that can never be anything but ungraceful in case of knitting, he says. The arms close together, the knitting needles going up and down. It has a sort of Chinese effect. That was really excellent champagne they gave us. And he knows that he is actually blabbering. And when a person is drunk, you get glimpses into the innermost situation in his psyche, what is going on in his mind. Lindy is completely not interested. And she says, good night, Nora, and don't be self-willed anymore. That's right, Mrs. Lindy. So yes, Nora should not be self-willed. Nora should listen to me. Good night, Mr. Helmer. Right after she leaves, we see how Helmer actually looks at Lindy and he finds out that she is a very boring woman, and he actually says that. He says she's a frightful bore, that woman. Aren't you very tired, Torvald? Nora is speaking in a quieter way now. She has lost her birdie chirpiness. No, not in the least. Nor sleepy? Not a bit. On the contrary, I feel extraordinarily lively, and you really look both tired and sleepy. Yes, I'm very tired. I want to go to sleep at once. There, you see, it was quite right of me not to let you stay there any longer. See, you are so tired, you shouldn't have stayed there. Everything you do is quite right, Torvald. There is a significant change in the way Nora is speaking to Torvald now. Helmer ignores this change. He doesn't realize that he's speaking to kind of a different woman now. And he says, now my little Skylark is speaking reasonably. Did you notice what good spirits Rank was in this evening? Now they're talking about Dr. Rank. And then Helmer wants to enjoy an intimate moment with her. He wants to be with her, make love to her, and he advances her, right? It is delightful to be home. It is delightful to be at home by ourselves again. So we are all by ourselves. We are all alone. To be all alone with you, you fascinating, charming little darling. So it's kind of making advances with a verbal foreplay. Don't look at me like that, Torvald. Nora is not interested. Why shouldn't I look at my dearest treasure? Note the word treasure. Treasure means possession. So he considers Nora as his treasure, as something he possesses. So he has every right to look at it, at all the beauty that is mine, all my very own. You mustn't say things like that to me tonight. Nora is clearly showing her lack of consent. And we know how insignificant women's consent was considered, especially if you were married. How can a woman say no to the husband? This is usually the idea that is prevalent even today. And when people hear about words like or phrases like marital rape, they say, how can there be a marital rape? A husband always has rights on the wife. And so any sexual encounter is validated by religion. So how can it be rape? There is absolutely no question about consent when it comes to the scriptures. Okay? You have said yes once. When you're getting married, it's as if you're signing an indefinite number of yeses for the rest of your life. That is the usual idea. So when Nora is refusing to participate in Helmer's enthusiastic advances, Helmer is very surprised and he feels that she was dancing the tarantella, which is kind of a revolutionary dance. It has probably kind of turned her into a rebellious person, and this is an act she is putting on. So her refusal to participate in his games is like a game she is playing. It's a game of courtship, and so he is fascinated by this. Okay, so he's not ready to take no for an answer. You have still got the tarantella in your blood, I see, and it makes you more captivating than ever. Listen, the guests are beginning to go now. Nora, soon the whole house will be quiet. Yes, I hope so. Yes, my own darling Nora, do you know when I am out at a party with you like this, why I speak so little to you? Keep away from you and only send a stolen glance in your direction now and then. So when Torvald is in a party with Nora, he also tries to act a kind of a role play, act out a role play. And in that role play, he imagines that he is not married to her. She is a forbidden woman and he looks at her. Now, doesn't this sound all very romantic? It does. It does. Unless you realize there is only one person playing the game. The other person involved here has no say in the matter. Then it becomes creepy, doesn't it? So he says that he pretends as if they are not married, they are not together. Do you know why I do that? It is because I make believe to myself that we are secretly in love and you are my secretly promised bride and that no one suspects there is anything between us. So Torvald is filled with all these unrealistic fantasies. But when your fantasies are not reciprocated, when somebody is not feeling like engaging with your fantasies, then your fantasies will become something which oppresses the other person. Yes, yes, I know very well your thoughts are with me all the time. And when we are leaving and I'm putting the shawl over your beautiful young shoulders on your lovely neck, then I imagine that you are my young bride and that we have just come from the wedding and I am bringing you for the first time into our home to be alone with you for the first time. So emphasize is on the first time. What happens when a woman is taken to her husband's house for the first time? Usually, she is not able to speak her mind out. She usually is that untouched virgin figure of a dream girl, and Torvald always imagines his wife to be something like that. So, the fact that Nora is not enough for Torvald, he has to add an element of imagination to convert her into something desirable. That means he is never in love with the real Nora. He has to make up this imaginary figure of this virgin Nora, whom he is taking in for the first time, in order to make her look appealing. All right? Nora is not interested. Go away, Torvald. You must let me go. I won't. And she is quite adamant this time. She speaks her mind boldly. What's that? You're joking, my little Nora. You won't. You won't? Am I not your husband? And then, right when his romantic mood is turning bitter, there's a knock at the door, and we see Dr. Rank comes in. Now, with the next part where they're speaking to Rank, there are two important parts we are going to focus on. Nora asks Dr. Rank about the diagnosis, about the investigation that he was talking about, that he would be making this final examination on himself. And she says, Dr. Rank, you must have been occupied with some scientific investigation today. So Nora wants to know about Dr. Rank's condition. But we know that Torvald is unaware of Rank's situation here. Maybe he knows that he is sick, but he doesn't know how much. We know that Torvald's relationships are all based on kind of superficiality. He doesn't know his wife so far as reality is concerned. He doesn't know about his friend's condition. So, all around him, he has built this air of imagination where everything is prim and perfect, because he is such a person that nobody actually considers him to be capable of real human emotions. All right. Nora wants to know about his condition, and Helmer, who doesn't have a clue about what examination, what investigation she's talking about, he says, just listen, little Nora talking about scientific investigations. We all know that he doesn't think Nora is capable of any serious thought. Rank says that his investigation has led to a kind of certainty. He uses the word certainty. Nora wants to know the meaning of certainty. Certainty here, because it's a terminal disease, it only means that he is now certain when he is going to die. Certainty? Absolute certainty. So, wasn't I entitled to make a merry evening of it after that? Since I'm certain about the outcome, I'm sure about what's going to happen, I should make the best use of my time. And then they begin to talk about the next party that they would have. And Nora wants to know what she would be dressed as. Rank says, "You shall go as a good fairy." Okay. So he wants Nora to dress as a good fairy, a fairy who blesses everybody with good things. And then Helmer says, what should be the costume for the good fairy? That means, how should she dress up for it? And Rank says, let your wife go dressed just as she is in everyday life. This means that in the eyes of Dr. Rank, Nora is always a good fairy when she is wearing her normal clothes, when she is wearing her everyday garments. This is real love, isn't it? When you love somebody for what they are, it doesn't matter what dress they are wearing, it doesn't matter what persona they are assuming. You don't have to imagine anything. Yes, role playing is fun, but it should not be the entire life of somebody. You should be able to appreciate every aspect of a person. At least you should be able to understand every aspect of a person if you say that you are in love with the person. And this acceptance of the other person, this mutual respect that grows out of it, is seen in the relation between Rank and Nora, but not between Torvald and Rank, not between Torvald and Nora. And then he says, at the next fancy dress ball, I shall be invisible. We know the meaning, Nora knows the meaning. Invisible here as in he won't be there because he will be dead. But Helmer doesn't know all this. He feels that he would dress up as an invisible man. And he says, that's a good joke. There is a big black hat. Death is like a big black hat. When you wear it, you're gone. Have you never heard of hats that make you invisible? If you put one on, no one can see you. Helmer is still smiling. Then Rank takes a cigar from Helmer. Nora strikes a match. So she says, let me give you a light. Thank you. She holds the match for him to light his cigar, and then he says, goodbye. Sleep well, Dr. Rank. She means be at peace. She knows Rank is not going to come back. Thank you for that wish. Wish me the same? Why does Nora want Rank to wish her sleep well? Because she knows that she will be also probably dying. Because that is the only way out for her, according to her at the moment. She has to probably commit some kind of self-harm, commit suicide. She was thinking about those dark waters. And she wants peace, just like Rank. Well, if you want me to sleep well, and thanks for the light. Light again is like not just the light for the cigar, but light for his soul. He is not feeling dark anymore. We see that Helmer goes to empty the letterbox. Nora, she's feeling the panic rising in her. And then Helmer notices that somebody had tried to tamper with the lock of the letterbox. There's a broken hairpin. And we think possibly Nora did, possibly Croxted did while going out. We don't know this. Somebody must have tried. And then Helmer finds out that there's a lot of letters. And then he says, what on earth is that? And this makes Nora feel like he has got the letter from Croxted and she's scared. She's saying, the letter? No, Torvald, no, but no. It's not the letter. He has got two cards, visiting cards, and both belong to Dr. Rank. Two cards of ranks. Of Dr. Ranks? So Rank just walked out, right? So he must have dropped them while going out. Is there anything written on them? There is a black cross over the name. Look here, what an uncomfortable idea. It looks as if he were announcing his own death. It is just what he is doing. Elmer, who had no clue about this, we know that Nora was told by Dr. Rank that when I would see that my end was near, I would send you a note with my name crossed out. So that is what Helmer finds here. Nora tells, he told me that when the cards came, it would be his leave taking from us. He means to shut himself up and die. Helmer is saddened by the idea that his friend is going to die, but see how he actually reacts to the whole thing. He had so grown into our lives. So he's walking up and down. He's trying to process this information and he's trying to see it as basically something which is having a positive end. That is his problem. That's the problem with the romantics. That I'm not talking about romantic poets, I'm talking about unrealistic people. They try to somehow bend every situation. As we see in case of Torvald, he is bending every situation to his advantage. And he says he, with his sufferings and his loneliness, was like a cloudy background to our sunlit happiness. So he was like a contrast, which made me feel that we were very happy. So he provided a kind of a standpoint or a kind of background against which our happiness appeared more bright. Okay. Well, perhaps it is best so. For him anyway. Okay, it must be all right because he was suffering and he should go. And perhaps for us too, Nora. We two are thrown quite upon each other now, so we don't have any interference from any third person. He will be gone. That is so selfish, right? You don't react like that to your friend's death. My darling wife, I don't feel as if I could hold you tight enough. Do you know, Nora, I have often wished that you might be threatened by some great danger, that I might risk my life's blood and everything for your sake. So he's all being heroic again, he's all being chivalrous again, and he has completely ignored the fact that his friend has just announced his impending death. Now you must read your letters, Torvald. Nora is not responding to his amorous advances. No, no, not tonight. I want to be with you, my darling wife. With the thought of your friend's death? So she gives him a reality check. How can you be in this mood when your friend is suffering and you've just heard about it? Yes, life must go on, that's okay, but you've just heard about it. So she kind of realizes Torvald's lack of emotion, real emotion for a friend, and she can kind of probably sense that this man is all words. There is probably nothing integral about it, about his emotions. And then Helmer says, yes, yes, right. I'm in a bad mood. And he says, it has affected us. Something ugly has come between us. Ugly. Death is not ugly. Death is painful. Death is like you'll be missing somebody. You don't call it ugly. The thought of the horrors of death, we must try and rid our minds of that. Until then, we will each go to our own room. So his mood is off. Not because he is feeling sorry for his friend, but because an unromantic topic has come between them. Nora has raised an unromantic topic to jerk him out of his daydreams. Helmer goes to his room and Nora is all alone and she's thinking about the outcome, what will happen. He's reading the letters now. He would soon know everything. He would want to take every responsibility because just now he had said that he would be protecting Nora, like when something bad would happen. And she is pretty sure that he is so chivalrous, he would declare himself to be the person doing all this nonsense. So Nora is not to be blamed. And Nora knows that the only way out is to commit suicide. So she's feeling like right when she would hear Torvald talking about the letter, calling her possibly for an explanation, she would simply rush out of the house and jump into the river. Okay. Never to see him. Never, never. And then she puts her shawl over her head. It's like she's kind of trying to protect herself from something. Never to see my children again either. Never again. Never, never. Ah, the icy black water, the unfathomable depths. If only it were over. She's scared to die. But she has no way other than this only option. He has got it now. Now he's reading it. Goodbye, Torvald and my children. She's about to leave. Right when Helmer opens his door hurriedly and stands with an open letter in his hand. And then he asks, all his romance is gone out of the window. Nora, what is this? Do you know what is in this letter? Yes, I know. Let me go. Let me get out. Where are you going? You shan't save me, Torvald. Nora knows Torvald is going to protect her. She doesn't want Torvald to be in any kind of legal danger. And she says, don't try to protect me. He goes on saying, it's impossible what you have done. It is true. I have loved you above everything else in the world. So when he says that it is impossible to be true, Nora feels he's talking about her sacrifice, that you have done so much for me. And she says, yes, my love is so much for you. Oh, don't let us have any silly excuses. Here, the moment. The moment, had it been a tragedy, we would have called this a moment of anagnosis, a moment of a realization, of epiphany. Okay, taking the word from James Joyce, he uses this expression in context of his short stories, in context of his fiction. Epiphany, you realize all your ideas about the world are completely put in the right perspective again. Silly excuses. Torvald, miserable creature, what have you done? Let me go. You shall not suffer for my sake. She still holds on to the belief that maybe Torvald is as sacrificing as herself. You shall not take it upon yourself. No tragic airs, please. I don't want any drama. He locks the hall door. So he stops her exit and he demands an explanation. Do you understand what you have done? Suddenly, Nora is all changed into a completely different Nora. We were witnessing a kind of a change coming over her right after Lindy had left. But now she is a woman speaking back. And she says, with a growing look of coldness in her face, yes, now I am beginning to understand thoroughly. He is going on talking about the ugliness of the whole thing. Okay, the utterable ugliness of it all. For shame, for shame. Nora does not reply for a long time. He gives this huge monologue and then he says, this is how you repay me? Yes, that's just it. And then he again goes for a long time. Okay. And I must sink to such miserable depths because of a thoughtless woman. When I am out of the way, you will be free. No fine speeches. Speech, drama, silly excuse. This is all Torvald is giving to her. This is all he is assessing her as. Okay. And then he says, your father had always plenty of those ready too. And then he kind of obscenely connects her bad work with her father's deeds and breaks all kinds of decorum here. There is not an ounce of respect. There is not any way in which he tries to understand why Nora did what she did. Do you understand now what it is you have done for me? Yes. So you understand that there is an icy coldness about Nora. She is not speaking in any long sentence anymore, not even any complete sentence. She's just giving him words. Yes, no, I know, that kind of thing. And then Helmer has already thought about a solution. And he has kind of decided that he's going to pronounce a judgment. So he is judging Nora. He is passing a sentence. And what is that sentence? What is going to be Nora's punishment? We must come to some understanding. Take off that shawl. He is still ordering her about. Take it off, I tell you. I must try and appease him some way or another. So I must do something to make sure that Croxter does not do anything wrong to us. He doesn't take any legal measures. That matter must be hushed up at any cost. And as for you and me, It must appear as if everything between us were just as before. We all know that Torvald is all about appearances. So there would be no real marriage. They would only put up a show in front of others because it matters to Torvald what others think of him. It doesn't matter to him what is really happening to their relationship. And he says, "But I shall not allow you to bring up the children. I don't want the children to be with you. You won't be taking any steps to interact with the kids. Why? Because you are a morally corrupt woman, and I don't want your moral corruption to affect the children." And as for their personal relationship, he says, "That is all over. From this moment, happiness is not the question. All that concerns us is to save the remains, the fragments, the appearance." The doorbell rings. Another letter comes. And this time, this letter says it's from Croxted. And we know that Croxted doesn't want to take any steps against Nora because he's too filled with happiness to do any harm to anybody anymore. And when Helmer reads this letter, he realizes that he is not going to be under Croxted's control because Croxted had also sent the bond. So now he does not have any proof of what Nora has done. And that means Croxted would not be able to do anything against them even if he wanted to. Seeing this, Helmer's entire attitude changes, right? And he says, "Yes, it is true. I'm saved. Nora, I am saved. I am saved." It was all about him for him. It was a botheration for him because it was going to affect his career. He would have been under Croxted's will, Croxted's control. That was his problem. So he was thinking about his problem in this. And now he feels that he is saved. He's not saying we are saved. And I? You too, of course. We are both saved. Both you and I. Look, he sends you your bond back. He says he regrets and repents. So he's very overjoyed. And then he says, "The whole thing shall be nothing but a bad dream to me." Well, his whole life is like a dream to him. He makes up whatever he wants out of it. And then he says, he decides that he would keep everything away from his life. They would move on happily, wonderfully. Like they would have this beautiful life again like they had before. So he's very excited. But is there an ounce of honesty in him? Hasn't Nora seen how he is capable of behaving when a real crisis hits Nora? Nora has seen that. And he says, look at the audacity. "I have forgiven you everything. I know that what you did out of love for me." He had forgiven her. All right. That is true. Nora's behavior, her approach is not changing. She is still very cold. Look at the words Torvald is saying now. "Only lean on me. Don't be worried. You have to, from now on, depend on me completely. You have to listen to me completely because when you don't do that, see what happens to you. Only lean on me. I will advise you and direct you. I should not be a man if this womanly helplessness did not give you a double attractiveness in my eyes. I know you are helpless and that makes you attractive." Again, that dreamy romantic air comes in. "Nora, I swear to you, I have forgiven you." "Thank you for your forgiveness." She goes out to the door to the right, to another room. "No, don't go." And then Helmer is quite curious. What is she doing in that room? "What are you doing in there?" From inside, she speaks, "Taking off my fancy dress." This fancy dress is not just a stage prop. It's not just a costume. This is like a symbol. It's not like she was wearing this fancy dress only for this party. She had been wearing this fancy dress, the symbolic fancy dress, through her entire marital life with Torvald. And she wants to get rid of this fancy dress, which is like a symbol of pretense. Okay? Nora becomes herself, and when she comes out, she says, "Yes, Torvald, I have changed my things now." "But what for? So late as this? You should be going to bed now." "I shall not sleep tonight." "But my dear Nora, it is not so very late." So it's never too late to do something important in your life. That is a motto we see in many motivational speeches, right? "Sit down here, Torvald. You and I have much to say to one another. She sits down at one side of the table. Now you understand the significance of the table, the significance of conversation in a relationship. And Torvald has never been exposed to this kind of an invitation where the wife wants him to speak to her. He is clearly uncomfortable. Nora, what is this? This cold, set face. Sit down. It will take some time. I have a lot to talk over with you. It is Nora who is now ordering Torvald to sit down. So it's kind of a game changing moment for her. And he sits down. He listens to her, probably for the first time. You alarm me, Nora, and I don't understand you. Nora says, you must simply listen to what I say, Torvald. It's the first time the gaze is turned, the tone is changed. And she says, this is a settling of accounts. The word accounts, it has an air of a kind of commercial mundaneness, far from the world of imagination that Torvald excels in building. And who is saying this? Nora wants a settling of accounts. The same Nora who had told Lindy earlier that I don't want to talk about business, I don't like to handle all these commercial stuff. I think men are supposed to handle this. That same Nora, that child Nora, is now asking for a settling of accounts. What accounts? Is she talking about money here? No, she's talking about life here. So she is looking at life from a realistic point of view because all our exchanges in our lives are actually balances, or rather balance sheets that contain investments and returns. We invest emotions and we get returns in emotions. So there is a balance sheet which has to be settled, balanced. What do you mean by that? Isn't there one thing that strikes you as strange in our sitting here like this? So they are sitting facing each other, and she says, there's something very strange, right? Oh, what is that? We have been married now 8 years. Does it not occur to you that this is the first time we two, you and I, husband and wife, have had a serious conversation, communication? And then she, after certain exchanges, she says, you have never loved me. So she's shaking her head. She knows this. You have only thought it pleasant to be in love with me. You have only created this imaginary persona and loved that. You've never loved the real me. Nora, what do I hear you saying? And then he goes on with his angry, accusative voice. It is perfectly true, Torvald. When I was at home with Papa, he told me his opinion about everything, and so I had the same opinions. And if I differed from him, I concealed the fact because he would not have liked it. So at home, when I was not married, I was influenced by my father, and I did not contradict him because that would have angered him. He called me his doll child and he played with me just as I used to play with my dolls. And when I came to live with you, came to live with you. She's not saying when I got married to you. So she is feeling this disgust to even use the word marriage here. She is not feeling like this is a marriage. She is thinking that this was like a transfer of property. And she says, when I came to live with you, now this strikes Helmer as inappropriate. And he says, what sort of an expression is that to use about our marriage? Nora continues, she's not affected by Helmer anymore. I mean that I was simply transferred from Papa's hands into ours. So settling of accounts, she was a property. She was transferred from her father's house to her husband's house. You arranged everything according to your own taste, and so I got the same tastes as you. Or else I pretended to. The same thing, what she did with her father. And then she says, when I look back on it, it seems to me as if I had been living here like a poor woman. We have seen, right? The way she was begging for money, the way she was supposed to give explanation about every expenses. She had really been very, very poor. And what about Torvald? He was capable of buying good wine for the party and spend on himself. So economic instability was Nora's situation, not Torvald's. I have existed merely to perform tricks for you, Torvald, but you would have it so. You and Papa have committed a great sin against me. It is your fault that I have made nothing of my life. She accuses Torvald of being the reason that she is nobody now. Helmer is confused. Nora, have you not been happy here? No, I've never been happy. Not happy? No, only merry. Merry and happy. Two different adjectives. They might be used as synonyms, but that link is a loose one. Merry is not happy. Happy is when somebody is filled with a kind of emotion of fulfillment. Okay, it's a strong emotion. Merry is when you behave in a cheerful manner, and it is not always about how you really feel. You usually use the word Merry Christmas, right? But Christmas is again a time of pretension, when you pretend to be happy, when you don't think about the horrors of life and you just put on this persona of a happy person, like we all do in our puja vacation. We try to put away all our drudgeries of life and become all bright and glittering. That is merry. Happy is, it's a continued emotion. It's a state of being at peace with oneself. So there's a difference. And you have always been so kind to me, but our home has been nothing but a playroom. I have been your doll wife, just as at home I was Papa's doll child. And here the children have been my dolls. So there is no real emotional exchange between the members of this family. They are playthings, and they don't have any power to exercise their choices. I thought it great fun when you played with me, just like my kids feel that it's fun when my mother plays with us. But treating your child like a doll, at least when they are really very small little kids, it is not very offensive because they are like dolls, they are so cute. But when they're growing up, you should understand that they have their standpoints, they have their perspectives, and that has to be respected. So Nora says that there's a kind of gap in our communication. Helmer realizes that there's something wrong going on here and he has to do something or the other to just stop Nora from behaving in such a rude manner. There is some truth in what you say. Yes, you are exaggerated and strained, but yes, there's some truth. But from the future, from next day, from next moment, we will change. And he says, playtime shall be over and lesson time shall begin. So there will be no playfulness. But he has not understood Nora at all. He feels that he should not behave in a fun way. That's why he's saying that I will be only focusing on important parts of life, serious things of life. And he says that lesson time shall begin. Whose lessons? Mine or the children's? Both yours and the children's, my darling Nora. So Nora is to be lessoned. Lessoned means taught, educated about how to behave, how to take life, how to deal with a crisis. The children have to be seriously educated. So, who is not to be educated? Helmer, because he is all perfect. This is his problem. He doesn't realize that he needs to change more than anybody else. He needs to take his personality, simply change it, evolve out of it to make this work. He is thinking that Nora has to change. The children have to change. He has to change his attitude with them. He doesn't know that it is his personality that has to change. Alas, Torvald, you are not the man to educate me into being a proper wife for you. And you can say that? And I, how am I fitted to bring up the children? You were just now saying that I'm not supposed to be near the children. I'm going to corrupt them. I'm so morally deprived. Now you are asking me to behave well with the children, to be with the children, to stay together. Why this double standard? And then she says, I must try to educate myself. You are not the man to help me in that. I must do that for myself. From where is she getting so much strength? Not just from her own crisis, but she has seen Lindy. Somehow, that concrete representation of this idea of an independent woman comes in the form of Christine, and she can realize that Christine is superior to her because she is in charge of her own life and she wants that. So, yes, Christine is very important so far as Nora's change is concerned. And that's why I am going to leave you now. What do you say? She is adamant she is not going to stay here. She is saying that she would go to Christine for the night and then maybe she will move on. You are out of your mind. I won't allow you. I forbid you. Helmer still believes he has control over Nora. It is no use forbidding me anything any longer. I will take with me what belongs to myself. I will take nothing from you, either now or later. What sort of madness is this? Tomorrow I shall go home. To my old home. So, home for her had never been Torvald's house. Home is her childhood home. And there, yes, she was controlled by her father, but that father is dead now. So, that childhood home will allow her a kind of autonomy, a kind of control over her life, which she can never have in Torvald's presence. Helmer gives a final warning and such predictable words. To desert your home, your husband, your children, and you don't consider what people will say? Well, that is very important for him. I cannot consider that at all. I only know that it is necessary for me. It doesn't matter what people think. It's shocking. This is how you would neglect your most sacred duties. This is something a woman always has to hear. A woman who is married, who has kids, especially, that they have duties, responsibilities. And she asks him, what do you consider my most sacred duties? Do I need to tell you that? Are they not your duties to your husband and your children? I have other duties just as sacred. That you have not. What duties could those be? Duties to myself. Before all else, you are a wife and a mother. See, these statements are so patriarchal, so predictable. And she says, before all else, I am a reasonable human being, just as you are. Or, at all events, that I must try and become one. The individual. This is the focus of Ibsen. He's not a declared feminist. He's not interested in, as I was telling, he was not interested in female voices, female autonomy. He was interested in the individual's autonomy, the individual's freedom. And if you are a woman, you are an individual nonetheless. And you have every right to seek a kind of validation as an individual. All right. And then Helmer, he's trying to hold on to the last bits of straw. Now, he is a shipwrecked man. You remember what Krogstad said about himself, that he is a man who is shipwrecked. As now Helmer is appearing to hold on to every straw he can get his hands on. Can you not understand your place in your home? Have you not a reliable guide in such matters as that? Have you no religion? Now he is hitting her with the weapon of religion. Because in every religion, it is declared that women's position is inside the house. Okay, she's supposed to be taking care of the kids, of the family, and in some of the religions, I'm not going to mention the names, you know very well. Most of the institutionalized religions, we have this idea that women are inferior to men. They are made from the ribs of the male counterpart. While the man is supreme, the woman can share his supremacy if he chooses to. So religion is going to be Helmer's weapon of choice here. So he's blackmailing her. I am afraid, Torvald, I do not exactly know what religion is. What are you saying? I know nothing but what the clergyman said. She is talking about understanding the true essence of religion. She is saying that I know what the clergyman has told me. I don't know what really is my religion. When I went to be confirmed, he told us what religion was this, And the other, when I'm away from all this and I'm alone, I will look into that matter. I will read the Bible. I'll try to understand. But don't try to give me that look that I'm not religious because I'm leaving you. Well, I will see if what the clergyman said is true, or at all events, if it is true for me. For me. She will choose which religion is going to suit her. Such power from a woman who barely a couple of hours ago was crumbling to nothingness. What has given her this power? Rank's declaration of his impending death, where, when you realize that, of course, she really loved Dr. Rank, that realization that death closes all. So, what's the point of pretense? Probably that had an effect. Probably Lindy's position had an effect. And when you are totally set up against a wall, standing up there and nowhere to retreat, the only option is to fight back. And that is what she is doing. You talk like a child. The narrative that Torvald had created through their marriage life, through their marital existence, is that she is a doll, she is a child. No, I don't. So I don't understand the world, yes, but how will I understand if I don't go out? I'm going to see if I can make out who is right, the world or I. You are ill, Nora. You are delirious. Now, the final attack is she has lost her mental stability. If you have read The Yellow Wallpaper or any such story where a woman's madness is considered to be arising out of her imbalance in hormones, imbalance in sexual desires, how that whole narrative of female hysteria is manufactured to suit patriarchy. Okay, the mad woman in the attic, the whole idea of isolating women when they begin to talk back, declaring them as mad, putting them under the gaze. That strategy is adopted by Helmer, and it's very scary. He's going to what? Declare that she's mad, and then she would be thrown into some institution. Can Nora fight that? Let's see. I have never felt in my mind so clear and certain as tonight. And it is with a clear and certain mind that you forsake your husband and your children? Yes, it is. Then there is only one possible explanation. What is that? You do not love me anymore. Of course, Elmer thinks that Nora does not love him. No, that is just it. Yes, I don't love you. And this is something Elmer can't accept. Nora? And you can say that? It gives me great pain, Torvald, for you have always been so kind to me, but I cannot help it. I do not love you anymore. It's almost like she is giving him a kind of a notice, a legal separation notice here. And then she says that she cannot stay here because she doesn't feel as if he is her husband. He is like a stranger and he doesn't want to stay with a stranger, doesn't want to spend the night with a stranger. Helmer is desperate. He is not ready to let her out. He tries every strategy here, but he's totally at loss that why is Nora doing this? And then Nora explains, I have waited so patiently for 8 years. And then she talks about the wonderful thing, that wonderful things don't happen every day, but I waited for it. Okay, then this horrible misfortune came upon me, and then I felt quite certain that the wonderful thing was going to happen at last. What wonderful thing? That Torvald would step up to save her. That feeling that you are saved by the man of your life. Okay, that is the wonderful thing. And this is the moment she was waiting for. When Croxter's letter was lying out there, never for a moment did I imagine that you would consent to accept this man's condition. I was absolutely certain that you would say to him, she thought if he read Croxter's letter, he would tell Croxter that go and publish. I don't care. I will save my wife. I will step up and tell that it was me who did this. You would be a brave man. You would not be afraid. But what we saw, what Nora saw, that when the letter came, he read. First of all, he wanted to hush the matter. He was not ready to face it. Second is, he did not for even once attempt to put his neck out for Nora. And when that was done, yes, what then? When I had exposed my wife to shame and disgrace, when that was done, I was so absolutely certain he would come forward, taking everything upon yourself. I'd say, I am the guilty one. Nora? Now, this Helmer had not thought that, okay, Nora was thinking this. Nora says, no, I wouldn't have accepted your sacrifice. I would have died before that. But I thought you would do this. And she says that I wanted to kill myself. Then Helmer says, I could not sacrifice my honor for you, Nora. So, just a few lines back, he was saying he would give his life for her. And now he's saying he cannot give his honor for her. It is a thing hundreds of thousands of women have done. Women have always stood up, taken responsibility. Oh, you think and talk like a heedless child. Maybe, but you neither think nor talk like the man I could bind myself to. So she feels that there is an end because, not because of, just because of what Helmer did, but also because she could see the pretenses in Helmer, the way Helmer again resumed that role play, calling her Skylark, the doll. Okay, this is something she could not tolerate. Exactly as before, I was your little Skylark, your doll, which you would in future treat with doubly gentle care because it was so brittle and fragile. You think I am not strong. Torvald, it was then it dawned upon me that for 8 years I had been living here with a strange man and had borne him 3 children. And then she is disgusted at herself. And Helmer says, yes, I know there's a gap and I want to fill it up. As I am now, I am no wife for you. Helmer now is completely scared and he says things which we know he doesn't mean. He cannot mean. He says, I have it in me to become a different man. Perhaps if your doll is taken away from you. But to part from you? No, Nora, I can't understand that idea. He cannot understand the world away from Nora because this is going to be a world where he would not have somebody to exercise his power on. And that is a great crisis for him. And then he says, please wait till tomorrow. Nora would not wait. And then he says, can't we live here like brother and sister? You know very well that would not last long. Goodbye, Torvald. I won't see the little ones. I know they are in better hands than mine. As I am now, I can be of no use to them. This assurance comes from the idea that she was earlier talking to her maid, and the maid had told her that the maid's daughter was raised away from the maid, but still she remembered her. And so maybe Nora felt that even if her children did not see her for a certain amount of time, they would still remember her. So, see, Nora's decision is not just taken as an individual, but she has gained strength from all these bits and pieces of characters talking to her throughout. She has gained some confidence from the maid. She has gained a lot of confidence from Christine. She has gained a lot of emotional strength from Rank. Confidence in herself that yes, she is enough. She doesn't have to wear a fancy dress to become lovable. So, all these things had a cumulative effect on her. But someday, Nora, someday, how can I tell? I have no idea what is going to become of me. But you are my wife. Whatever becomes of you, through better for better for worse. And then Nora says, "No, I'm leaving you. You are not bound to me anymore, and I'm giving you my ring back." So she's kind of officially ending their marriage. That too. So she wants her ring back, and Helmer is really not able to process. Now he is talking in these small bits and pieces. His monologues have run out. He has run out of his monologues. Okay. That too. That too. Here it is. So he has become like a doll now. Who is the doll now? Helmer. That's right. Now it is all over. I have put the keys here. The maids know all about everything in the house better than I do. So she leaves. Right where Helmer has understood that everything is gone, he is asking her for the last time, Nora, shall you never think of me again? I know I shall often think of you, the children, this house. May I write to you, Nora? No, never. You must not do that. Nora knows how charming Helmer is. She doesn't want to be exposed to any kind of temptation because Helmer's charm is a temptation for her. But at least let me send you nothing, nothing. Let me help you. So, see, Helmer is not the evil person here. He's not completely a dark antagonist. His immaturity is his own antagonist. So it's also like a story where Torvald realizes his folly and he understands that the only way to let a marriage work is to change to some extent to accommodate the other person. And he says, Nora, can I never be anything more than a stranger to you? We are almost feeling sorry for him, aren't we? Ah, Torvald, the most wonderful thing of all would have to happen. Earlier, she was talking about the wonderful thing as Torvald sacrificing action, that he would take everything upon himself. Now, she is waiting for another wonderful thing. So life is about this, right? Waiting for wonderful things to happen. What is this wonderful thing that could happen now that would change everything, that would change this tragedy to lived happily ever after fairy tale? Tell me what that would be. Both you and I. She's not saying just you. See, she's not just accusing Torvald. She knows that the mistakes are not committed by one person. In a relationship, if a relationship fails, it's a responsibility of both. And if you want to make it work, you have to first realize that you yourself are as much to blame as the other person. So she is not like Torvald accusing the other person. She is saying both you and I need to change. This is where her understanding is more mature, superior to Torvald's. Both you and I would have to be so changed that, oh, Torvald, I don't believe any longer in wonderful things happening. This is a realistic Nora emerging out of that dreamy persona. So, this is a moment when realism is born live in front of the audience who were till then used to all these well made plays where fairy tale-ish endings happened, where people simply lived happily ever after. The audience, for the first time, think about the audience who were watching this play for the first time when this play was being staged for the first time. They were seeing the birth of realism in drama. I don't believe any longer in wonderful things happening. Romance away, realism in. Helmer wants it to complete. So change that, that our life together would be a real wedlock. A real wedlock, although it has the word lock, which is kind of, you can say, linked to the idea of caging down somebody. But if it is a real wedlock, it does not tie one individual, it ties both the individuals. And therefore, it's not suffocating for one person. I'm not saying it's suffocating for both, but it's like a real understanding, a real commitment from both ends. She goes out through the hall. Helmer sinks down on a chair, buries his face in his hands like this. He's totally broken. Nora, Nora. Then he looks round. He sees that she's gone. And suddenly, because he's so much of a romantic, he can't stop dreaming about good endings. And he feels that, yes, at least she said, there is a possibility, a wonderful thing, right? And he says, the most wonderful thing of all. And maybe he is already dreaming that someday that wonderful thing might happen. And then there is a bang echoing across the whole auditorium. What is that sound? The sound of a door shutting is heard from below. The dream, the romantic optimism is straight away blocked by that disturbing noise. And critics have said that that noise reverberated not just across that one single auditorium, but across the whole of Europe. That shutting of the door is the final sound that is heard in this play. And what was the first word that was heard when the play began? Hide. So a woman goes from hiding to asserting her personality. And remember today what I was telling you when we were reading those lines? When Torvald was talking about exit, he had said, "Do you think I was going to let her remain there after that and spoil the effect?" This is Ibsen talking. He didn't want Nora to stay. He didn't want Nora to stay because that would spoil the effect. People were terrified. They wanted alternative endings. Not the audience, but actresses who refused to play Nora. I talked about all these things in our intro video. But when an alternative ending was provided, the audience understood that it was not going to work. This ending was going to work. Why? Look at these words. An exit ought always to be effective. Exit of Nora from Helmer's life is most effective because she leaves him when she is at the top of our admiration. Admiration for what? For selfishness? No, for courage. She is never saying she is perfect. She is never saying she is right. She is saying that she is going to find out if she is right or the world. So it is a journey towards understanding who you are. It is not the end of her understanding of herself, it's the beginning. So, is this a good ending or a bad ending? It's a happy ending or a sad ending? Happiness, sadness, can they possibly be defined in any ending? Because ending marks a moment. Happiness is about a continuous feeling. So, the whole idea of a play having a good ending or a bad ending or a happy ending or a sad ending is redefined in a domestic space. We don't have larger than life characters, we don't have larger than life emotions, but even there, heroism is possible because life is not about the magnitude of your action. It doesn't matter how many people you are affecting. It matters if you are affecting yourself or not. So, this is what this play is all about, and this is what realism is all about. So, if you are going to sit for your undergrad exams, or maybe you would be going for UPSC because that is also part of UPSC syllabus, you might consider working on or focusing on how this play is a realistic one. How is realism presented here? How is Nora presented here? How is marriage as a social institution presented here? How do you see Ibsen presenting an individual set against society? So these are the basic ideas you should work on. Maybe we can have a discussion session on different kinds of questions that might come from this text. UG level questions, UPSC questions, or master's questions. Some of you might have this text in your master's. So, if you want, we can have a discussion session on Doll's House and the possible questions you should focus on. So, if you want that, you write that down in the comment section. Then we can take that up. All right. Do let us know if this playlist of A Doll's House has been useful or not. And although I get a number of requests asking me to do a number of texts, again, since I'm just one person, it becomes difficult for me to address all your issues. And as you already know, I don't like giving just summaries and taking short classes on these texts. I always try to take up a text, dig deep, and discuss them to give you the entire flavor of the text. So, yes, I'm not giving you all summaries of every text that you're asking me to, but still keep on letting me know what you want me to work on, so that when I sit back and try to decide what will be our next series on, we can have some requests already there from which we can choose. Okay, so I'm sorry if I have not made videos on all your requests, but we are really trying here. Okay, so stay subscribed, share this with your friends, and please take care of yourselves. This is Monami Mukherjee signing off. Bye bye.